The Indiana Fever have been super aggressive this offseason. To say they made some great moves would be an understatement. They virtually filled out every team need with their trades and signings. They needed more bench depth, shooting, and more post depth. They filled all three of those needs. I love the Nalissa Smith trade. It's clear she no longer fits what the Fever wants to do, and she's still young. So they moved her to somewhere where she could have a fresh start. I wish more teams did this instead of holding on to players they clearly don't want anymore. Sophie Cunningham, on the other hand, is a great fit for the Fever. She's a low usage rate player who moves off the ball and is a good defender. She loved being in Phoenix, but I think she'll make Indiana her home too. I was absolutely shocked by the DeWanna Bonner signing. I thought it was a done deal she was going to join the Phoenix Mercury. DeWanna not joining Phoenix makes the trade a lot less valuable on the Mercury's end. Their bench is extremely weak and their shooting is questionable, but that's a topic for another day. Let's talk about what she can do for the Fever. DeWanna Bonner is a 6'4" guard who uses every bit of her height on both ends of the floor. She's essentially providing what Katie Lou is for the Fever, but at a much higher level. She can guard multiple positions and is a true 3-level scorer. She is good in both catch and shoot and off the dribble situation, and is amazing at drawing fouls when she drives to the hoop. She's 37 years old, but that's not a cause of concern. The Indiana Fever have enough guards and forwards to ensure she gets the proper rest for when it matters most. Last but not least, the biggest steal in the free agency signings, Natasha Howard. In a vacuum, Satu Sabali is a better player than Natasha Howard. But when you factor in team needs, and the fact they didn't have to trade any assets for Howard, this was the much better route for Indiana to take. A high usage rate stretch big would have been a strange player to pair with Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. Natasha Howard, on the other hand, is a much better defender, is a much better low post scorer, and is a better rim runner. I thought Indiana was a title contender solely off of the Howard signing alone. Acquiring Sophie and Bonner just solidifies that even more. The only missteps, in my opinion, was the Fever not protecting Temi Fagbenle in the expansion draft. Considering the fact they are in win-now mode, it makes even less sense that they did this in hindsight. I would have liked the acquisition of Jaylen Brown a lot more if it wasn't at the expense of cutting Grace Berger. Disregarding the fact they most likely protected a player in the expansion draft that they just cut, the sample size of Jaylen Brown's WNBA performances is very small. I think they made the same mistake Dallas did when they cut Veronica Burton. They didn't think they would need her last season, but they clearly missed her. The 19th pick is interesting. It's going to take some luck to get a quality player. Dejanay Carrington was the 20th pick in the 2021 draft. Nelson Ododa was the 19th pick in the 2022 draft. Kate Martin was the 19th pick in the 2024 draft. So it's definitely possible they can get someone at the 19th spot. The best case scenario is if teams screw up and Maddie Westbeld falls to 19. I still stand by that she will be the biggest steal in this draft. She hasn't got an opportunity to truly shine, because Notre Dame is the most guard-centric team in the country, but being a 6'3" player who can score at all three levels and who can move off the ball would be extremely valuable to the Fever. But regardless of who may and may not be available at the 19th pick, the Fever have an extremely stacked roster. This will sound harsh, but I think anything less than a finals appearance would be a failure by Stephanie White. They by far have the best roster outside of the New York Liberty. You have Caitlin Clark, who will be an MVP candidate next year. Kelsey Mitchell, who is one of the best scorers in the game. Natasha Howard, who is easily the most underrated power forward. Dallas was trash last year, but she was far from the reason why. You got DeWanna Bonner, who is used to playing under Stephanie White, and Aaliyah Boston, who is one of the best centers in the league. And unlike last year's Indiana team, they have a deep bench. Lexi Hull and occasionally Katie Lou were starters, but now they are coming off the bench. They already had Damiris Dantas, and now Sophie Cunningham is in the mix. We'll see if they trade Christy Wallace or try to re-sign Erica Wheeler to a cheaper deal. If this team still had Grace and Fagbenle, this would have been a flawless team. Their bench arguably would have been better than whatever starting lineup the Valkyries end up having next year. But regardless, I'm very excited to see the Fever next season. This is one of the fastest franchise turnarounds in history, and it will be interesting to see how it plays out. But that's it for this video. How far do you think the Fever would go next year? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.